Hi, Leslie.
Hey Jess, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm good. It's so good to see you again. I mean, like through the technology.
No, but it's been like a year, right?
It's been a minute. Yeah, I think we finished up the film challenge like a year ago.
What was it? Was it in like March, April?
Yeah, I think it was like right around this time. So,
Yeah, it was like exactly a year ago. Oh my gosh, this is crazy. I'm so glad to get to see you and chat with you.
yeah, thank you so much for having me on. This is great.
So, where are you? Tell me about where you are and what is going on for you right now in the midst of all this coronavirus situation.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am at my home in Brooklyn. So my partner and I are staying here for the quarantine, and things are, going. I am among many other freelance filmmakers who's currently not working, not able to work, so that we can keep people safe and flatten the curve, which has come with its own set of challenges, but also definitely a lot of opportunities as well. So some days I would say are definitely easier or harder than others. But, we're all kind of in this and we're all sharing this experience, which, if nothing else, there's something very communal within that.
What is it like? I talked to Ty about what New York City was like for him, but obviously everybody's going to have a different experience. And on the media and on the news, we know that New York City, it's the epicenter of all this. So, but you personally being there, what is it like for you? Like, do you feel that craziness or, in the community around you, does it feel calm? What does it actually, feel like for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's definitely different. There is a bit of an eeriness to it because New York is normally such a bustling and fun, lively place, and yeah, I would imagine at least most New Yorkers, kind of love that and thrive in that, and that's definitely a bit more absent here. But what I will say is, I think in general, people are being kind. Like you can tell people are a little nervous, but trying to understand that everyone is in this same boat. And one thing I actually noticed the other day when I was out, walking and everyone's wearing these masks. And so, we did a quick walk around the block the other evening, and people were kind of like making eye contact. Like if you saw someone, they would wave. Like, weirdly enough, that's just not normally something that would happen in New York City. But there's this almost sense of like, oh hey, like other human, like we're actually like taking a moment to even just acknowledge each other slightly. And just because we're all experiencing something that's so different. I mean, no one here is a tourist. Like we're all living in this together, and so as much as it is a little odd. There is kind of this sense of like shared camaraderie here. Whenever you do need to brave out to the grocery store or brave out to walk your dog or something, you can kind of have this sense of community with other people, and that's good. I mean, I have definitely seen like some people who've gone a little nuts, and like I saw someone yelling at someone the other day because they were too close, and it's like, yeah, all right, like we're all feeling a little on edge, but in general, it's actually kind of, I think, or maybe this is just the way I'm choosing to see it. I think it's brought out some really good and compassionate sides of people.
No, I definitely agree. I feel like, I mean, it's not a good situation in general to be in, but with all of the bad things that are going on, I would say that if you aren't suffering from the illness or you're still okay, one of the good things is that it is kind of having this sense of like community. Like people aren't so wrapped up in, their business and trying to get to the next level and let's network and just talk about work and make money. And yes, that's still happening. But I think now people are really just talking to people for the sake of talking to people, for the sake of connecting, like it's not for some other, weird reason. It's like people, I FaceTime with people more now than I ever did before. It's like when
Yeah.
we did have the ability to see people, like if this didn't happen, like would we be even talking? So it's like, it's bringing people together, and like relations that you could have had with people that were good relationships, but because your own life kind of get caught up, you just lose touch with people. And this is kind of like, not the whole like, check up on your ex or anything, but like people that you do, know of and at least have talked to, and you had a good relationship with them. I see people are more, connecting with them, just having an awesome conversation with them. And that is something that I really love. Like, let's just talk and just feel like a community. Like, in a way, it's bringing some people closer. Like, even within our industry, I did like a webinar, and it was talking about like, agents and different lawyers who work in all the entertainment business. And they were saying some of their clients, they're getting to build better relationships with, the agents and the managers, because it's like, they're not, they're still working on development things, but nobody's in the midst of like working. So they have the time now to actually, get to know these people. Whereas before it was just a quick email. And so I think coming out of this, if you did have the ability, I think relationships will have become stronger. And even translating that into work, connections that you had before might grow stronger and lead to projects developing. And I think just a better sense of community within like, your network that could have been expanded because you have the time to talk to people now. So
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think I've seen so many people kind of, we're really hungry for connection right now because we are physically so isolated. And I think that people are trying to channel their creative energies in such a way that they can find different ways to connect with people, even in unique ways that they might not have before. Like I was seeing that the Women's Weekend Film Challenge, which is, where we met. It's an organization that brings together women to create a short film in 72 hours, which I'm like, still can't believe that we did that. It was amazing.
like, all the equipment, like it's insane.
They're amazing. And they just started it out in LA. And I think one thing that's really cool is that they're taking this opportunity to actually reach out to women filmmakers, women writers, directors, and they're hosting these virtual watch parties and then having these Q&As. And I think being in New York City, sometimes I take for granted for sure that, we're able to go to different events like this frequently. We've got a lot of schools here, a lot of really great media schools. And so we have these opportunities to go to these Q&A sessions, these live viewings, but, I don't think I take advantage of it as much as maybe I should. And having it virtual means that, everyone can take part. And, maybe I wouldn't have gone to this event, but now that I'm here, I'm in quarantine, I'm like, absolutely, I'm going to tune in for that. Absolutely, I'm going to take the opportunity to speak to a woman who's directed a feature-length film, which is something I aspired to do one day, listen to her advice and what she has to say. So I definitely think people are taking their downtime, so to speak, or just like the additional time they have in the day to find ways to reach out to their community, like whatever that might look like, whether it's your friendship group, whether it's a group of people that you work with. My writers group, we're kind of starting some stuff, hopefully back up soon. And like, I've been reaching out to people for comments on my writing. And so there's opportunities there where I'm like, we're, bringing things back that are helping us to connect and really kind of diving into some passion projects and things like that. And I think it is going to make relationships stronger and probably just revitalize some relationships that maybe went dormant for whatever reason.
One thing that I heard someone talking about that I thought was like really cool was that maybe people that you didn't have access to before because they were so busy, you might, not saying that you do, but you might have access to them now. So if you wanted to reach out to some, well-known writer or just somebody that is more well-known who maybe you would never have had the time before, you might have a better chance at getting them to see your work or, do some kind of virtual interview with them. So, I mean, like you said, with your writing, it's like people who always wanted to reach out to certain people, when they say there's no better time than now, literally there's no better time than now because, people are, that's the thing, it's everybody, like we're all in this situation together. It's not like one little, and obviously it's affecting, people differently, but everybody is in this sort of same situation together. And so, most people have more time now, even if people are still working, everybody kind of has probably more time than they did before. So send your writing off to, somebody who you wanted to send it off before. Hopefully they respond, but definitely take, advantage of the time that people might have that they didn't have before.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. To be able to reach out to people, to be able to stay connected to people. And you're right, open potentially new doors that may not have opened before. And it'll be interesting to look back on this time. I was talking to a friend of mine about this the other day. I go, one thing that is unique about all this is that it is a shared experience, right? So there's plenty of reasons why maybe people would be stuck inside their homes for months at a time, right? Like maybe you have like a horrible accident, or you're very sick, or, who knows? There's plenty of situations in which people are stuck at home, and it can be very isolating because of the nature of being stuck at home, but additionally because maybe that's their only experience. Whereas in this situation, it's not like I broke my back and was bedridden for months. Like we are all going to come out of this and all have had to do the same thing. So there will be this sense of community within that, but additionally, we're all going to have the opportunity later to look back and say, how did I use that time? And granted, there's so many people who are having to work in jobs in which they are, on the front lines, and like, thank you so much to those people and the people who are doing that. But for a lot of us, we're going to look back and say, okay, did I spend that time, reaching out to people? Did I spend that time maybe doing something that was constructive or progressive versus maybe spending a lot of time being very, not quite as productive, or maybe like allowing myself to just run away with some anxious thoughts and feelings. And that's not to downplay anybody who does have anxiety about this right now. I know I certainly do. And there's people that are probably dealing with much worse anxieties than I do. And people, but a lot of people I think are going to look back on this and say, did I binge watch The Sopranos, which like, awesome, like I'm doing that too, but also like, did I go in and do this thing that I've always been saying I was going to do? Did I go back and write that screenplay? Did I go and create that pitch deck? Like, what's the thing that I always said, oh, if I only had the time, I would do that? Are we doing that now? And so I think it's something on the hardest days that I try and think about. I'm like, eventually I'm going to look back and say, well, what was I doing now? And sometimes you don't have to be productive every day. Sometimes you just need to let yourself live in whatever you're feeling. But keeping in mind that we're all going through this, and we're all gonna be together again soon if we listen.
Stay in.
Everybody stay inside. Yeah. I want to get back out. I want to go see my family and my friends. We all got to stay inside. But if you are able to, if you're not too anxious, if you're not too, if you're not having to go out on those front lines and you are in a particular position, taking advantage of this time and trying to make it some time that you'll feel proud of later. I think.
I had this, I think on the first episode, I kind of had this conversation, and it was basically like, it's okay, to take this time as a mental health break and do nothing, and not do nothing in the sense of like sit on the couch for the next 3 months, but it's like, don't feel the pressure of like, oh, I need to be doing this or I need to be doing that. Like, we don't have to try to work 10 hours out of the day, like if you want to Netflix show, or if you want to sit and journal, or if you want to just sit and think, and then maybe write a little bit of your screenplay, like now is the time to like keep yourself at peace, but still be a little productive, but not feel forced and stressed if you mentally can't, create right now. I think it's a balance, like nobody.
Absolutely. Well, and a lot of people too, like I'm personally not working right now. So, I'm kind of finding creative ways to fill my time, but a lot of people are still working their full-time jobs. And if anything, their full-time jobs have gotten harder and more time consuming from home. And so, I have a lot of friends of mine who say like, oh, I really feel like I need to be getting this stuff done. I'm like, you're working 11 hours a day. Like, I don't know when, I understand there's this kind of, to your point, societal pressure of like, how are we going to use this time? But, and for me, like not having a job right now, not being employed, I'm like, okay, I want to get these things done. I want to, do this stuff because that's what I, can use this time for myself. But, there's a lot of people who are in situations where, maybe they're parents and they've got young kids at home, and it's, you know, they're spending so much time trying to make sure that they're entertained and stimulated and still getting their education. And so, you know, I think that some of us, like myself, have all the time in the world almost. And then there's other people who, you know, why put any pressure on getting anything more done than simply surviving, because there's, you know, a lot going on. So I don't know, I think ways that people can feel almost as though they're able to do something useful. Because I think one thing I've personally struggled with is feeling like I'm, you know, being useless right now, if that makes any sense. Like, I need to be like, what can I be doing that is helpful, or that is, you know, going to be something that can really help the community during this time. And, you know, I've gotten into volunteering with an organization here in New York, and that's been something that I think has been really great. You know,
now during the situation.
Yes, so we're lucky enough to have a car here in New York, and so we're working with God's Love We Deliver, which basically is providing meal kits for New Yorkers who can't afford food, and so we're able to go pick those up safely. They will give us gloves and masks. We have a car, so we'll load some meals in our car and can drive around to drop these meals off to deliver them to people. They also have people that are volunteering in the kitchen. They have people that are volunteering and assembling these kits, you know, all staying within a safe social distance, everybody wearing masks and gloves, obviously. But, you know, for people who are maybe in that same boat where they are a freelance filmmaker, they are unemployed, they're trying to do their passion projects, but they also want to do something to feel useful right now, you know, there's plenty of opportunities to volunteer. And even if you can't leave your house, I know there's organizations that will do at-home kits, and you know, you can maybe sew masks, things like that. But additionally, at least in New York, you can also register to vote if you haven't registered already. But if you have registered to vote, you can go online and make sure that you're able to vote absentee, so that when the elections come around this year, we're able to send in those ballots safely and not have to go to a polling place and things like that. And so, you know, looking towards
how it's going to go this year because of everything that's going on. Like, you might not be able to, you know, go in and vote how you normally would.
Yeah, absolutely. I wonder how different states are going to handle that, because I know in New York they made it so that you can vote absentee due to the coronavirus. So as long as you do have to go online, you do have to request your absentee ballot, but you are able to do that in this state. I know that that's not the case for every state, and some states have already had their primary elections. Some states are not quite as quick to roll out those procedures, but I know at least in New York State, they have made those efforts to make sure that people still are able to, you know, exercise their rights and get out and vote.
So what, you know, before this whole situation happened, what were you up to? Because when I met you, you were working at BIB, which is like a media company born in Brooklyn, and you were like one of the partners there, and you were a producer, and you guys focus mainly on commercials, correct?
Yeah.
So on the short film that we did, you were one of the associate producers, and so it's been about a year now. What have you, you know, kind of been up to within this past year, and then what were you doing right before, you know, coronavirus shut everything down?
Yeah, absolutely. So this past year has been a whirlwind. I was with BIB Media, which is a media production and training company here in Brooklyn, stands for Born in Brooklyn Media. And in that time, we moved studios. And so over the past summer, we were moving stuff from one studio to another, getting the entire studio set up. We focused on commercials and live events, and so I kind of had rounded out the year working with them. And then I left that company actually in February to go into the full-time freelancer route. You know, I kind of wanted to steer my career in a bit of a different direction. I really wanted to get more into the documentary side of the business. That's kind of where my passion lies. And so I had kind of jumped into the freelance world head first, and then coronavirus hit like 3 weeks later. And so I had a couple of, AP jobs. I had some jobs lined up for the month of March that all got called off. So, that was kind of a bummer. Obviously, it's not exactly the the situation that I would have anticipated or would have been ideal. But, you know, I feel very fortunate to have been in a position where I was able to save some money. And so to have that and to be in a place where, you know, as much as this is a very scary time, you know, I was able to file for unemployment, which is incredibly difficult to do as a freelancer. Yeah, I know a lot of people have struggled with it, and I felt very lucky. There were a lot of communities, whether it was through Facebook or through Google groups, of freelance filmmakers who had kind of gone through it and had given information about how to, you know, best go about that process so that, you know, other freelancers could get their unemployment insurance benefits and things like that. And so, you know, I felt very, as much as it was a scary thing to jump back into the freelance world, I had done it for about a year before I was with BIB. I was doing some freelancing, and so, you know, jumping back into that world was definitely scary, but in an interesting way. As much as it was not the ideal situation, I definitely kind of felt the arms of that community wrap around me. I think freelancers in our industry have a real compassion for people who are doing the same thing, because we all get it, right? Like, we all work one job to another job. Like, we all know what that's like. And so there was definitely a big community of people that were going through the same thing, and have also been, you know, giving out ideas in terms of like, hey, if you aren't employed right now, like, here's how you can volunteer. And so I do think that the filmmaker community as a whole, you know, there's so many people with such big hearts, and a lot of us are all in the same boat, and we're all kind of being there for each other. And I find that to be incredibly comforting. And I'm really proud to be in an industry that is so aware of what's going on in the world and is so willing to reach out and make sure that everyone is doing well, that our mental health is in check, and, you know, kind of just being there for each other.
Was it kind of hard for you to transition back into the freelance world? I mean, I know you didn't have much time because the virus hit, but was it, you know, hard for you, or do you feel like all the connections you made at BIB made it easy to kind of switch over? What was that like? Because there's people who want to switch over to freelance or move over from freelance into more of sort of like a company or corporate world.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's always scary to make a career transition, like, no matter what it is. So, you know, whether that's leaving one company to go work for another company, or whether that's, you know, leaving your maybe full-time job to go and start your own business or go into the freelance world. And so, yeah, absolutely. It was terrifying. I mean, you know, walking away from a guaranteed paycheck is never easy. I think, you know, within that, making the decision, I'm 26 years old, so, you know, I'm still in my 20s. I'm kind of out here in New York. I'm doing work that I really love, but I also knew, I was like, I really do want to dive full time into more longer form content, working more so in the documentary space, and trying to budge my career in that direction. And I really loved working in the commercial space. I really, really loved working, you know, with the clients that we had. And it was certainly a very, very difficult decision. But, you know, having worked in the freelance world in the past, because when I first moved up to New York, I was working at Macy's and for a little bit, and I was freelancing, and then I kind of got, you know, built up enough in terms of the freelance space to be a full-time freelancer for a while. And so I think having done it once before, and just kind of knowing how to speak the language, if that makes any sense, and being a part of the groups in which, like, I know where I can find freelance jobs. I know, you know, I can kind of check in with these different places and see what work is available, made it, you know, a little bit easier, I would say. But it was definitely a difficult decision. It was a difficult transition, but ultimately, I think, you know, I've always been the type of person to just kind of go on instinct, and trust your gut. And there was something in me that said, you know, this is the move you're supposed to make right now. It's not going to make sense a whole lot, but, you know, make a calculated risk. You know what you have to do. And so I kind of just jumped and kind of assumed that my gut was telling me the right thing to do. And, you know, right now kind of is a little bit of a like, what, are we sure this was a good idea? But also, you know, even being in this circumstance, you know, it's helped me to refocus, funny enough, like being in this position. This is the longest I think I've ever gone not working. And so one thing that I've had a lot of time to think about is like, well, what do I really miss the most about my job? And it's being on set, and it's being with filmmakers, it's being with people who it's being with people who are all together creating something. And you know, whether that's in a studio, out in the field, I just like, I love the energy of that, and I'm so excited to get back to it. And if anything, it's kind of helped to reaffirm my convictions and my decision in the first place, because I know what I'm excited to get back to. And I've had that opportunity to really think on it. And I feel, you know, as though once everything opens back up, like it's just, I've got a new energy to go back after what I want, kind of with a new force, I guess.
What do you think, or how do you think the industry is gonna look after this? Do you have
Yeah.
any ideas, or are you just like, I have no idea?
I have no, I think there's going to be a lot of content, a lot of maybe post-apocalyptic content during this time. It's going to be interesting, right? Because there's a lot of things that are in production right now that have either been put on pause or have been canceled completely. And so we're going to have this real lag, right? And that's going to be rolling out possibly even this summer. I mean, the summer movies this year, I don't know, you know, what's going to happen in that space. And even looking to next year, you know, it takes a long time, as we know, to, sometimes it takes a long time to make a movie. Sometimes it only takes 72 hours. If you have a group of badass women together, you know, we can pull it off. But, you know, sometimes it takes years or, you know, months. And I don't know. I don't know what it's going to look like, but eventually this space is going to open back up and people are going to come out with their scripts. So many people are going to come out. I'm going to come out with my script. We're all going to come out with our scripts.
We're going to be ready to go.
Ready to go. And so I feel like there's going to be a lull, and then there's going to be a boom in content, if I could just guess based on what's going on right now.
Yeah, I was on the Zoom, or not, it was some webinar, and it was saying how, you know, people are writing, you know, they're contacting people in development, like they are going to be ready to get their stuff made. And so I think a couple of things will happen where obviously I think the rollout might be a little slow just because insurance companies and studios are going to be very cautious of having everybody back together again.
Mm-hmm.
And planning, you know, like people who had booked stages and like figuring out how to, you know, give everybody the stage time they need, and just with all the changes and dates. But I do think we'll see a lot of content, but I'm a little nervous on the sense that I don't know if studios or other, even in the indie world, if they're going to be so much content because people are afraid to take that risk because of money. You know, like I think people are going to be trying to make their money back and just make as much money as possible. So I wonder if certain stories won't get told if they're only going to go for safe bets for a little bit of time, just because studios or companies want to say, like, if we're for sure this is going to make us money, then we want to do it. And budgets might be lower, you know, like they might not want to have super high budgets anymore and pay people less, or, you know, even just smaller budgets for the set and everything like that. So, you know, I don't know, but I know that all these conversations are definitely happening, and they're trying to figure out, you know, what to do after this whole situation kind of goes away.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know, you know, it's such a good point in terms of the economy as a whole. You know, we think about our industry, which, you know, we've got these creatives and everyone's going to come out with their ideas. But to that point, you know, the economy is not looking so great. And so
Great, Leslie, it ain't great.
It's not great. And so, you know, in terms of development, I mean, our industry is going to be hit. Every industry is going to be hit, and there's going to be a lot of hesitation in terms of, you know, where we're going to put our money. And so I don't know. I think that is really interesting. I think that there's definitely something that kind of sets our world apart is that it's incredibly accessible nowadays. People are curious, and people are making TikToks who like don't work in our industry necessarily, but they're learning how to edit videos, and they're learning the principles of what makes a good shot. Like the other week I was watching an Instagram video. What was that? Oh. But I was watching this Instagram video, right? And it was from my salon, the salon that I go to. They made this video, and it was really cute because they were using a makeup brush, and then they would touch the brush to the camera screen, and then they would transition to somebody else's house, right?
The Don't Rush Challenge is what it was called.
Okay, gotcha. So I was like watching that, and I was like, it's so interesting because, at least from all accounts that I know of, like, these are, people who do my hair, they're hairstylists. I don't know if any of them are video editors or video producers, or if they do that as well. But it is interesting to see that people are kind of picking up on these fun ways to connect and just entertaining ways to connect. And so I think we're going to see kind of this, we are seeing this explosion in the social media market, right? Where people are becoming very creative with their video ideas. And so I don't know what that's going to look like in terms of the industry as a whole later, but I do find it really funny and charming, and
it helps.
Yeah,
it helps kind of through the day.
Yeah, it helps everyone get through the day, and it's just kind of this fun shared experience. Like we're all trying to, and like Quibi, what is it? That just launched recently, so there's all these different platforms that people are kind of exploring, and I don't know what it's going to do to shape the industry, but I think it is entertaining. And what is our industry for but to bring people together? And now we're kind of allowing an opportunity to invite the audience into that and to allow them to share that with us, this sense of creativity and creative expression. And I think that in and of itself is cool. I don't really know what it means, but I think it is really nice, and it's fun that we're sharing the space together.
Any advice that you want to give? I know you talked a little bit about what you're doing, but if you want to give any kind of final words or some advice to what, other filmmakers, creatives, or just people, because we're all kind of going through this together, of what we can do during this time.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I would definitely say, first and foremost, check in with your state's voter registration. If you are not registered to vote, you can register, or if you can, apply absentee, because I know that the time's ticking for that. And we've got a very important election coming up. So, we kind of checking in for that, and also, enabling yourself to feel as though you're really contributing and doing something in society. If there are possible ways to volunteer, definitely. But I would say in terms of filmmakers and creatives, I thought it was really interesting. I forget who you were speaking to. You had the two guys that worked in casting that you were talking to the other day.
Kyle and Harry.
Yes, and they were saying that they were watching some movies that they hadn't seen, because there's this like shame almost in like being a filmmaker and like having not
that
seen
movie. Oh my God, how dare you in this industry, you never seen that? Like,
yeah, it's like you feel bad, like people like you've never seen. And so I've made this list of movies that I've like been so ashamed of never having seen, and I'm just kind of like,
give me five, and then I'll ask you to send it over to me. What are 5?
Oh my gosh, perfect. So I've got Citizen Kane. I've never seen Citizen Kane. I've never seen Do the Right Thing, the Spike Lee movie. Never seen that. I've never seen Django. Yeah, and I've never seen Glorious Bastards, so we got some Tarantino on there for sure.
Okay. I never saw that full one. I've seen parts of it, but I never watched it all the way from beginning to end.
Okay, yeah, I haven't seen it. I think I've seen like a little bit of Django, but I haven't like seen the whole movie.
Oh, good. I guess based on what you consider good, but I like the movie a lot. It's insane, it's crazy, but it's a good movie.
I'm excited. Yeah, I'm excited to like dive in and just see so many, because people, talk about these films, and we run in these, circles where you go out to like, I don't know, networking happy hour, and the conversation drifts to it. And everyone else has seen this movie. Like, you can be in a group of like 12 people, and I'm not going to be the one that's like, oh, I've never seen it. What's it about? Because, you know, you've heard about it so many times, and I just find that like, like I don't.
Like the one judgy thing in this industry, you know, that's like it feels like that's a determining factor who's a real filmmaker. Like if you've seen, you know, and I'm like, listen, we don't all like the same thing, but I do catch up on some movies that I haven't seen. But I'm like, man, like I feel so like, geez, am I not supposed to be a filmmaker? You know, because I haven't seen this. Is like I start to question myself.
I know, right? And like I've noticed there's some real cinema buffs out there too who are like very proud of like all of their cinema knowledge, and like good on them. And if that's you,
I know for sure.
Yeah, but I'm like I love a good movie. Don't get me wrong, but like I don't know. I think we also I think grew up in a time where like you know some movies are incredibly wonderfully done and incredibly long, and we grew up in an era where like TV shows were coming out, they were half an hour long or something like that. And so you think about it now, and like I mean when I was in high school and in college, like you couldn't get me to sit still for 3 hours to do anything. Like I was a mess.
I watched a lot more, and that is I guess the difference. Like I watched movies, but I really did grow up watching like TV shows, like this Disney Channel, you know, the little corny Disney movies. And of course I watched, you know, movies as I got older, but it's really always been TV mostly that or rom-coms are my thing. So people always think, have you watched these classic movies? And I'm like, give me a good rom-com and I'll probably, you know, like those movies are I guess I don't know if they're bad movies, but I love them. They're not cinema or whatever you want to real movie making, but I love them. That is what I love.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I was definitely, and you know what it is I was doing the more low commitment, like, oh, this is a show, I'll watch it. It's half an hour, and then I'm going to go out and do this thing. Like, oh, I don't know if I want to buckle myself in for the rest of the evening to watch this one thing, but now we've got only time. So I'm like, I guess I'll get my cinema education during quarantine. But yeah, that's one thing I've been trying to do. I'm like, all right, well, I guess I'll just educate myself on these movies.
Yeah, what's so interesting is I remember somebody had gave me a list before, and that's so funny. I'm gonna text my boss now and say, hey, do you have like some movies that you think I should watch? And I'm gonna try to like watch a different one every day because we have the time now.
We have the time.
But no, Leslie, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
I mean, I'm in Atlanta now, so I'll be here for a bit, but definitely once I get back to New York, and even just throughout this time, I definitely want to touch base with you because I love documentary filmmaking too, so I definitely want to touch base with you. And when you sent us that email, oh my gosh. Like, and so I was just like, oh my God, that was so nice of you. It was such a nice, sweet surprise too. So that really did mean a lot. So thank you for that.
Of course. It was so good talking to you again. I missed you. We will have to stay in touch. Have fun down there in Atlanta. Enjoy the weather. Is it like warm out there? Is it nice?
You know what? It is warm. Let me see. Because I mean, I'm looking at it now. It's very nice and sunny, but it's not that nice today. It's going to be 65. Well, it's going to go up to 70.
Oh, nice.
And then the rest
it's like in the 50s here.
The rest of the week is like 75. And then next week it'll get into like 80, it says. But like the past 3 days, it's been like low 60s. So, I mean, it's still nice especially compared to Niagara Falls or Buffalo. I think it snowed today. So
Yeah. I've got a lot of friends that are quarantining at home, and they're like, I have a girlfriend of mine who's in Wisconsin. I've got friends that are up in Buffalo, and everyone's like, what is going on? Like,
so it's definitely nice compared to that. So sometimes I'll go out and do my at-home workouts on a little patio if it's nice enough. But it's nice to have some sun. That always kind of makes me feel a little better versus if it was snowing. I'm like, just give me some nice sun, some more weather. It always lifts my mood.
Absolutely.
Have you been in touch with any of the other girls? I'm just curious. Like,
yeah. So I've chatted with Karima. She's doing great stuff. You definitely need to reach out to her. She wrote and directed her first short recently, and it's so good. She's doing amazing things. So she's great. I've been in touch with her a little bit. I've been in touch with Cameron a little bit as well. who's the, Karima was an actress in the short film that we all made, and Cameron was the director, and a little bit with Quinn, actually. I've spoken to Quinn, who is our executive producer. It's been a while. I don't know if I've been in touch with them since quarantine, so I should probably reach, back out again. But I've been in touch with a couple people, and everyone seems to be doing some really awesome stuff. It's so amazing to see a lot of the people that we worked with that on that experience with, the things that they've been doing this year, and the things that they've been writing. Anna, who was actually the writer of our short film, she, I know, was recently at a film fest. I think it was CineQuest. I think she was in CineQuest. I think I saw that online somewhere, but I know that she made a pilot recently that takes place in New York, and she's been doing awesome stuff. So many of the women that we worked with are killing it. They're doing amazing work. So I've been in touch with a couple people.
2-3 years.
What was that?
Imagine what's gonna happen in the next 2-3 years.
Oh my gosh, I know, right? Everyone, we're all doing awesome stuff. And I was so excited to see that you were starting this podcast back through. I mean, I had listened when we met about a year ago, and I've listened to quite a few of your episodes. And so when I saw you were doing a quarantine edition, I was like, of course she is.
I was like, because I don't know why I just got so lazy with it. I do know why. We're not gonna get into that, but I do know why I kind of fell off. But when this whole situation happened, I was like, well, I'm not at work. And I was like, what can I do? What makes me feel like I'm contributing in my way? And it's always kind of been being able to talk to people, and see what their experience is, and just kind of talk about it and to put that out there. And whether that's 10 people, 20 people, 30 people who listen to it, getting that out my mind of oh, I need this many people to watch it. But just this, whether 5 people watched it, I enjoyed it, and I hope that the person that I'm talking to enjoyed it as well. And so that was kind of enough for me, because this situation, it's impacting us. And so I really wanted to see what my fellow filmmakers and creatives and freelancers were, kind of going through, and how we were getting through this situation together. So yeah, it's definitely something that is helping me, because I kind of need to be doing something productive, and not all day. I don't have an interview every day. Working out is something that I try to maintain every day. That for me is if I don't work out, or if I just sit and watch TV, I'll wake up and feel anxious, not really in a good space. But yeah, this is kind of my way of being able to still put something out there for people to just kind of listen to, and it makes me, it helps. So I wanted to see, let's chat about what we are going through.
Absolutely. I'm so happy that you did this too. Like you said, it's great to talk to people and see what everyone's experience is like, and just to have that sense of connection now. So that's awesome. I'm so happy you started back up.
Thank you. I know. Thank you. I'm so excited. I'm I had to get out my own head. So no, I'm glad. And I'm chatting with people who I haven't chatted with in a long time. Or that I never got to talk with. So no, it's really been great. So I'm so excited I got to chat with you. Let's stay in touch. And yeah, we'll chat soon again for sure, Leslie.
We will. Thanks so much, Jazz. Good talking to you.
So much.
Have fun down there in Atlanta.
Thank you. Stay safe in New York.
I will. Bye, girl.